What's going on, everybody? We're back for another Acceptable Casualties battle report. It's been a long time. We're going to be doing 400 points at Battlegroup. We got some Jaegers facing off against some Americans. We're going to be doing Beyond the Beaches. We'll be back in a second to go over the list and deployment. Alright, so here we are with our 400 points of Fallschirmjäger. This is going to be coming out, like I said, a Beyond the Beaches book. So down here, I have Forward HQ. He has a Kubel wagon. Over here, we have one platoon of Jaegers. It's going to be, I think, the elite upgrade with these guys. So there's the platoon command. They have a Faust. Right above them is the 3 MG34 teams. Right above them are 3 rifle teams. Each team has a Faust and an MG34 upgrade. I also decided to take a PAC 40 and an MG 42 on tripod. For arty support, we ended up taking a 120mm mortar. For our recce, we took a sniper with spotter as well as a SD KFZ 222. And then for one of our support options, we ended up going with the flak Veerlings over here. So altogether, I think it was like 395 points, and the battle rating is 28. So we'll be back in a second to look over the Americans. So here we have Scott's 400 points of Americans. This is the infantry from Beyond the Beaches. Up here we have a command HQ. The Jeep there is there for their transport as well as forward observer unit. Down here, what do you got, Scott? You have
Platoon command.
Platoon command, and then you have 3 platoons. These are obviously broken up into squads of
3 squads with 2 teams.
2 teams, 7 and 5 each, right? No upgrades on them.
No.
Okay, just regulars, right? Over here, he brought for tank support. He got 2 M10s. Down here for his recce, he has a reconnaissance and Jeep, and then he has a sniper team. Does that guy have a spotter as well? Or is he just a lone sniper?
A spotter, it's an officer.
Gotcha.
Jeep.
Then over here, you end up bringing what? Just a regular?
Light machine gun, heavy machine gun, both with loader team, both with Jeep.
And then finally,
mortar, just 60mm.
Just a 60mm. And you have 2 off table as well, right?
2 off table in the artillery section.
Support slot.
Yep.
And what's your battle rating for this one?
Battle rating 28.
28. So we got 28 apiece for the battle rating. We'll be back in a second to go over deployment. We ended up rolling up defense lines, so we'll be back in a flash. Alright, so we're back for our deployment for defense line. We had a roll-off. Looks like the Jaegers are going to be defending with the Americans coming in from the right table edge. So to go over the objectives first, I was able to place 2 inside the middle 2-foot part of the table. So there's going to be 1 out here in the middle of this field on the front side of the town. And then over here there's 1 in the hotel. The one I was able to place freely got placed back in the courtyard. I ended up rolling up 8 units that I could send out here. So there's the PAC 40 here. He has an ambush order. He has clear lane of sight going down that alleyway and the road over there. Up here on the top floor, there's an MG42 with a tripod. Right underneath that is the platoon command squad. Over here is one of the rifle teams from that platoon inside the middle blue building. Over here on the top floor is an MG34 from the Fallschirmjäger platoon. Down there is a rifle team. Back here is the flak Veerling, also an ambush. And then over there is the mortar team. I have another, like, what, 6 or 7 units that are in reserve. I still got to roll. I got D3 units going to get pinned down as well before the turn starts. Scott, how many units did you get? You had what? Your 2 recce and then 3 units came on. So what do you got right here? This is your comms team, right?
Forward signals unit.
Yeah, forward signals unit. You got a sniper over there. Down here,
Battlegroup commander.
Battlegroup command. Back here he has his mortar, and then on that top side, another recon officer. So that's his units to start. Scott gets reserves coming in on the top of turn 3. He's going to be going first. I don't get my reserves in until bottom of turn 5. So we're going to do the bombardment off camera, and then we'll be back for the top of turn 1. So we are back for top of turn 1 for the Americans. For this turn, we'll go over first. There was the 2 pins that we had from the initial bombardment. It ended up being the MG42 up there and the MG34 team that was in top of the hotel. I got 2 of those guys got pinned. Then for Scott's turn, a lot of mortar fire, but not a lot happening. Ended up dropping a mortar Back down over here, it's scattered back there. Failed to do anything. Yeah, no pins or anything. And then he had another one he tried to drop on top of the Pack 40. That was the off-table artillery that he had. That scattered to there and also failed to do anything for that. And then the sniper team he had down here fired up into the building over here, and he failed to get any hits. So that's what we're looking at here for top of turn one. We'll be back in a second for bottom of turn one for the Fallschirmjäger. All right, so we are back for bottom of turn one. For this turn, pretty much just set up some ambushes and then had a little bit of return fire with the mortars. These guys down here, I ended up giving them an ambush order as well as the guys in here. With the platoon command, I was able to spot down here into the woods on top of the sniper. My scatter roll was 4 inches, so it kind of landed right there where you guys can see it. With my 2 dice from that 120 mortar, I rolled a 6 and a 1, so 1 shot landed right on top of the on the sniper team right there. Ended up blowing those guys up to a man. I think Scott made 1 out of 3 potential saves for that one. And that's really all I did. I didn't have any line of sight really that was worth taking a shot at for any of this other stuff. So we'll be back in a second for top of turn 2 for the Americans. So you're back for top of turn 2 for the Americans. For this turn, Scott just pretty much fired a bunch of artillery down to pin some more units. With one of his orders, he did pull back the observer off the edge of the
Battlegroup commander.
The Battlegroup commander off the edge of the brush right there. Then with the spotter down there, he was able to see over here to call on those 2 mortars that are off table, which scattered there. Scott had a direct hit, ended up killing one of the guys in the houses and pinning that unit. Then there was 2 attempts to pin over here, but they ended up falling through, not doing what they needed to do. That's all happened here. Next turn, Scott will have the first wave, or second wave of his push coming in. So we'll be back in a second for bottom of turn 2 for the Fallschirmjäger. So we're back at the bottom of turn 2. Not a lot happening here. For this turn, I ended up failing a comms test to drop a mortar bombardment in between over there. I had like 8 orders, but I decided just to kind of hold off. I put everybody in sniper fire that could be in sniper fire, and then I ended up pulling the chit to unpin units. I rolled a 1. So I ended up just pulling the pin marker for the MG42 that's up here on the top floor. So that's what we're looking at right now for the bottom of turn 2, coming back for top of turn 1. Scott got his first wave of reserves coming on the table, so we'll see how that shakes out. So we're back for top of turn 3. For this one, Scott had 9 orders, and he ended up bringing in, he could bring in 5 units for reserves. So I guess we'll just take it from the top. He brought in one of the machine gun teams, and that's a loader team attached to it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so they have a loader team, so they drove up, and then they dismounted and went up to here. Same thing with those guys over there. Their Jeep rolled up the side, and those guys dismounted into the woods. The 2 M10s, they came up, and they exchanged fire with the Pack 40. I dropped my ambush as well. We both kind of just missed and whizzed a bunch of rounds by each other. No damage done there. With the spotter over there, Scott dropped. He rolled really well. He had 2 dice scatter. He rolled double 1, so it scattered 2 inches to right here. And then he ended up getting 2 direct hits, 1 on these guys and 1 on these guys here. The one in the house didn't do any damage, luckily, but over here I took 2 casualties, but I ended up passing my morale test. But these guys still are pinned. But actually, oh no, they're okay. And then I think that's all that happened right here for the top of turn 3. Coming back in a second for bottom of turn 3. So we are back for bottom of turn 3. Pretty decent turn for me on this one. I ended up getting like 9 or 10 orders, more than I can end up using. So to start the whole thing off, I ended up dropping in a mortar bombardment right here, and I only ended up scattering 1 inch, which pretty much landed me right over there. I ended up getting 2 6s for the damage dice on this one, so I was able to blow up the Jeep right there and kill 2 guys for the command, but Scott passed his morale test, so they ended up staying. And then I got lucky over here, and I ended up blowing up the M10 with a direct hit with the heavy mortar round and took that out. Scott ended up pulling a low ammo count with one of those chits. Tried to play it on the Pac 40, but that ended up failing. I think he rolled a 1 for the result. And then I activated the Pac 40 afterwards, fired 2 shots down at the M10, and ended up failing to do anything there. With the MG42 up here in the top floor, I used my orders to pin these guys with the first shot attempt. The second one I went to shoot to kill, but I failed to observe on the second attempt over there. And then with the rest of my guys, just kept them set up for ambush. And then I had these 2 guys pinned right here, but I'm kind of just leaving them be as is. So we'll be back in a second for top of turn 4 for the Americans. We are back for top turn 4 for the Yanks. Got ugly on this one. So for this turn, Scott rolled on. He had a bunch of reserves come on. You guys can see all the rifle teams like pushing up the flank over there to start the turn. What do you get? 12 orders, right? There's 12 orders he ended up getting. Tactical coordination to start it off down here with the machine gun team that went off. Between that, some mortar rounds, just a whole lot of fire here. He was able to take out my MG42 team on the top floor, just absolutely shredded those guys. The Pac 40 team down here just got blown to bits as well. Then Scott dropped that off-table mortar, and then that ended up going right here. It was enough to kill 2 guys on my mortar team, but I passed my test, and then another 2 guys got killed in here, but I had to be on the call of duty, and they're active again. There's only a machine gun and a Panzerfaust that's left in there. So a lot of damage done over here. I don't know, what else? Do you have anything else for this turn, Scott?
Well, it was the light machine gun, vaporized the Pac 40, and the 50 cal.
That's what it was, yeah.
The tripod,
it was
42.
Back-to-back turns. The only good moment I had was that one of those chits I did pull in was an airstrike. So we'll see if I can get a plane to come on here and maybe help me out a little bit. But the Yanks are pushing up the table, and I'm kind of running out of elite troops to hold them back. So we'll see how this thing plays out at the bottom of turn 4. So we are back for bottom of turn 4 for the Jerrys. Not a lot, but we did a little bit. So with our remaining guys from the mortar team over there, we were able to drop a mortar over here, and I was lucky enough to get a pin on the rifle team back there with my 1 mortar round. And then with the machine gun rifle that I had in here, I was actually lucky enough to pin the machine gun on that side as well. So slowed down a little bit on that flank, but I don't really have much going on over there. Down here I had that rifle team. They fired once up there, failed to do any damage, and then I had them run into the house up here on the top floor to make room for the flak Vierling over here. I opened up twice. The first shot, I only had 2 hits. I got 2 kills, but Scott ended up passing his morale, so they're still active. And on the second attempt, I failed to spot those guys. So that was pretty rough. So that's what we're looking at right now for bottom of turn 4. This line is thin. The only thing I got coming my way is I got reserves going to start rolling in next turn, but, Scott got a whole lot of troops over there. So we'll kind of see how this thing shakes out going into the top of turn 5. So we're back for top turn 5. This turn, Scott has all of his reserves on, so no more reserves are coming on. This is when the push is starting to begin here. So this unit that was up here, they ended up firing down, and they were able to kill 2 of the guys off the flak Vierling, but I had to be on the call of duty test. I ended up passing it and returning fire back on them, and I was able to kill 5 of those guys in total, and then they ended up breaking off the table. So that was kind of nice, but like I said, there was a price to be paid over here. The mortar fire ended up dropping over here in the courtyard. There was an attempt for a pin. I ended up passing my save, so that was okay over there. Then the M10 ended up pulling up to this point, firing some machine gun fire down into the guys up here. No damage was done, though, for any of those rounds. I think besides that, there was nothing really happening. A lot of the units that were over there are now pushing up into the woods, and then Scott did pull his shit so he can unpin the 50 cal over there. He rolled a d6 and only 1 came up. So that's what we're looking at right now. Top of turn 5, coming back for bottom of turn 5. I finally got reserves coming on. I don't know if it's going to be enough to hold the line, but we'll find out. Be back in a flash. So we are back for bottom of turn 5. I ended up getting 5 reserves, and I think I had like 11 or 12 orders. So all in all, not a terrible turn, nothing great either. So between, I had a mortar dropping over here, scattered to here. Scott almost had a heart attack because I had another direct hit, and this was the closest thing in range, but I ended up not doing any damage to it. He's fine. He passes morale test, no issues at all. Then over here, I tried to pin with the flak Veerling, and it ended up passing morale on the tank as well, so they ended up holding up pretty well. Down over here in the woods, we were able to kill one guy and then pin both of those units with assorted small arms fire coming in from over here, as well as the armored car that came in from reserve on there. With the unit that I had on the top over here, the 5-man rifle team with the machine gun, I was literally, it was just got like an 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch short of just out of range over there, so I blew an order on that because we don't play pre-measuring. And then I drove on my Ford HQ, parked the Kubel there, sent him up to the 2nd floor, and then back along over here, you see some infantry coming on. We got some MG34s, we got another rifle team, and another MG34 kind of pushing up for support. The only thing I have left in reserve is a sniper team. So we'll be back in a second for top of turn 6, excuse me, for the Americans. So we are back for top of turn 6 for the Yanks. On this turn, a couple casualties end up getting handed out on here. So Scott ended up bringing in the artillery bombardment and tried to zone it in over here. He had a really good rolls and it only scattered there. Scott had 2 direct hits and then 2 pinning hits. He's enough to kill my mortar team that was there. And then I had that one man from the, let me move his pin marker, he's not needed anymore. One man from that light MG, the 34, got blown out the window, and that's his corpse there out in the courtyard. So 2 kills there. I pulled 2 chits. I ended up pulling another air attack. Last one didn't pan out. We'll see how the next one goes. You had like what, 5 orders this turn?
5, yeah.
Yeah, so it wasn't too much going on with the 5 orders. Then the M10 fired down. And ended up missing on the 222. I think Scott only has 1 AP round left, and then with his other order, he peeled that rifle team off to the back end of the hill. So that's what we're looking at right now, going into the bottom of turn 6. I got to get this line reinforced to see what can happen here. So we'll be back in a flash. So we're back for bottom of turn 6 here for the Jerrys. I got my last support unit on the table, which was the sniper down there. This turn, it was pretty much all small arms fire because I didn't have my mortars left, and obviously you guys know what happened to my Pack 40. My HQ that was up here, since there's nothing left to spot, and I didn't want to get shot out of the windows, I ended up moving him down to the car, driving the car back down the street over there. So that's where he's at. The flak Veerling over here, I was able to dump some rounds in and pin the M10 over there. I ended up putting the rifle team that's in here. They are now in ambush. The back line of infantry over here is now pushing up to the courtyard to try to help support these buildings over here. With some small arms fire from the rifle and MG34 over here, we were able to pin down the BAR team, and with the 222 right there, through autocannon fire, we were able to kill off the 30 cal, or it was 50 cal MG team that was over there, and take those guys out. So the assault is stalled a little bit, but Scott still got some mortar fire, so we'll see how this thing plays out going into the top of turn 7. So we are back for top of turn 7. Scott had a decent amount of orders here, nothing too crazy. So pretty much the gist of what this turn was there were some mortars, yeah, exactly nothing, that were dropped on top of the house right here. They ended up doing 1 casualty, but I passed the Beyond the Call of Duty test. I'm just activating them so they're not pinned anymore. Then another mortar dropped back here into the courtyard. It was enough to kill 1 guy in here, but since these guys are all elite, I was able to easily pass all my morale tests and keep those guys active on that. Besides that, there really wasn't much else to shoot at outside of the mortars. Scott then took some infantry that was back there, started to push them up the hillside over there. So we're going back into the bottom of turn 7 right now. I'm going to see if I can reinforce that front line and then see what we can do about it. So we'll be back in the flash. So we're back bottom of turn 7 here for the Jerrys. I only had 6 orders for this one, so mostly it was moving. all the machine gun and rifle teams that were in the courtyard here pushed up, and they went to this building, that building. They pushed into the corner right there in the hedges to kind of watch that alleyway, and the sniper team pushed up over there. Then we ended up firing downrange with the armored car. Got 2 shots in on that middle team that's right there. Scott ended up making 2 of the 5-up saves, and those guys were good to go. And that's kind of all that ended up happening right here. Like I said, we moved the sniper up to the middle of the courtyard as well. So that's what we're looking at right now for bottom of turn 7, going into the top of turn 8. It's slowly turning into trench warfare. So we'll see how this thing plays out for the remainder of the game. Remember, we stop at turn 12 is when we end up calling it quits, but we'll see if we end up making it that far. So we'll be back in a flash. We are back for the top of turn 8. So for this turn, got some more mortars dropping in over here. I'll start on this one on this side. Scott had his 60 millimeter mortar dropping over here. Ended up not being able to pin the flak Vierling that's over there. Then the 2 off-table mortars ended up scattering just a couple inches and dropped right over here from up there. It was enough to kill the sniper spotter over there and actually pin the MG team over there. So that's what happened on that side. Some infantry ended up pushing up the rifle team that's in the middle over there next to the pinned unit. They tried to fire twice down here and failed to do so on both occasions, and that's kind of all that happened. There's a little bit more movement happening on the back end on those woods over there, some infantry pushing up. So that's all that's happening right now. I'll be back in a flash. So we are back for the bottom of turn 8. So this turn, it was kind of just a lot of small arms fire. I had these guys all lined up in the building over here. I put these 2 guys in ambush with some of the units I had in here, the platoon and the MG team, as well as the autocannon. We were able to do some casualties and pin both of those units. That's pretty much all that I had in range right here. And at the end of this turn, we kind of looked at it. There's nothing that's really going to come in this assault over here. There's just too much ground to cover, as well as just too many machine guns that are still left on the table over here. And there's not really an answer left for that 2-2-2 at this stage of the game. So we're going to call it. We'll be back in a second for the end of game recap. The Germans held the line. We'll talk about it in a second. So we're back for the end of game recap on this one. So kind of just looking over how the battle ended up playing out right now. Early on, with the amount of casualties that were taken along the front over here and the mortar fire, there could have been a punch through, but I think since a lot of the stuff was on foot coming through and Scott had to wait till round 3, there wasn't really enough there to kind of build up and take advantage of that to get over to the buildings and really make a push through. And it kind of left it open for me on turn 5 to get my reinforcements up here and at least get to the courtyard and be like a turn or 2 away for coming back in and contesting this, as long as these guys were alive in here. And that was enough, I think, to kind of hold it down as well over here. I mean, this corner was, got, just absolutely chewed up by mortar fire. Just having the flak Vierling there and then the 2 rifle teams that were kind of floating around here, it was enough to kind of hold this down and just wait until reinforcements came in. But like I said, once that all kind of pushed up to that side of the table over there, it almost turned into a turkey shoot once guys started kind of pushing up over that hill and reinforcements hit over here, especially too with the 222 over there. Since there was only 1 AP round left in that M10 over there, I really wasn't too worried about it with the distance coming in. I figured I could park it and try to do as much damage over there. And if Scott got lucky and fired that 1 shot down range and I lost it, so be it. But if he missed at the same time, then I was going to have free reign with that autocannon kind of driving around, because there really wasn't that much anti-tank left on the table after he would have fired that last round off. Overall, this one kind of turned into a slugfest, almost borderline trench warfare as far as guys getting dug in and not really being able to pass through the open ground. I think that kind of happens when you end up getting a lot of infantry on here. It's such a low-level game. So we'll be back, probably play a little more Battlegroup over the next couple weeks, try to get some more games in now we got a little bit more free time. So we'll catch you guys later.